The sky above SCIFI-Prime glowed with a pale lavender light, a color that marked the coming of the High Convergence, a rare alignment of three suns. In the great palace of the Zarathian Empire, the halls shimmered with crystal chandeliers and golden banners. Everywhere, servants scurried to prepare for the coronation ceremony of Queen Valera, the ruler of 50 star systems. The event was meant to celebrate not only her ascension but a new alliance, a marriage between Valera and a human from Earth. The humans had been underestimated for centuries. Alien historians called them baseline life forms, creatures of weak bodies and fragile technology. The Queen herself had been skeptical. She had agreed to this union because it was politically necessary. Earth had recently emerged as a rising power, and the galaxy's fragile balance demanded alliances. And yet, when Captain Aaron Vale walked into the palace, Valera could not help but notice something about him. He did not move like a diplomat or a noble or a royal consort in training. He moved as if he had seen countless battles and survived all of them. Aaron's appearance was simple. He wore a ceremonial uniform, navy blue with silver trim, and his posture was perfectly straight. His hair was short, his eyes calm, his expression neutral. There were no flashy implants, no glowing markings, no psychic energy fields. In a room full of nobles displaying wealth, power, and alien beauty, Aaron looked ordinary, the courtiers whispered. Some were shocked that the Queen had married such a common human. Others simply laughed quietly, muttering that the Zarathian throne had been reduced to a ceremonial joke. Valera herself ignored the comments, though a small spark of curiosity had ignited within her. The coronation ceremony began in the Grand Hall, where towering windows looked out over the violet forests of Zarathia. The alien ambassadors of every star system were present. Valera walked down the aisle with grace, her golden cloak trailing behind her. Aaron followed, his steps measured, deliberate. He did not fumble, he did not bow too low. He did not attempt to impress. He simply moved like someone who had no need to impress anyone. The officiant, an ancient Zarathian priest with translucent skin and eyes that reflected light, began the ritual. Queen Valera took the ceremonial blade and touched it to her heart, promising loyalty to her people. Aaron stepped forward as required and repeated the pledge. His voice was steady, calm, and carried a strange confidence that drew the eyes of the audience. As the ritual ended, fireworks erupted outside and the court cheered. Valera expected the next part of the ceremony, the parade, the feasts, the political speeches, to pass uneventfully. But she did not expect the shadows that were already moving. Unseen by the court, elite assassins from a rival faction had infiltrated the palace. The Vorn Dominion, an ancient enemy of the Zarathian Empire, had decided that this marriage was unacceptable. They moved silently, cutting down the palace guards one by one. Their weapons were strange, lethal, and invisible to normal scanners. Valera's advisors panicked. Some fled, some attempted to fight, but the assassins were too fast. Within moments, chaos spread through the hall. The courtiers screamed, and the Queen herself realized that her life was in danger. Aaron's expression changed, just slightly. His eyes sharpened, his muscles coiled. He moved, not like a human, not like a diplomat, not like a guest at a ceremony. He moved like a predator. In the blink of an eye, he was between the assassins and the Queen. Valera watched in disbelief. Aaron's hands were empty. There were no guns, no energy weapons, no armor. And yet he struck faster than her eyes could follow. One assassin lunged with a vibroblade, and Aaron sidestepped, twisting the attacker's arm until the weapon fell harmlessly to the floor. Another tried to fire a hidden energy gun, but Aaron disarmed him with a single motion, tossing him aside. By the time the palace security realized what was happening, the threat had been neutralized. The assassins lay unconscious or dead, depending on the severity of their wounds, and Aaron stood quietly in the middle of the hall, catching his breath. His uniform had a faint smear of blood, not his own, but otherwise he appeared completely untouched. Valera approached him slowly, her mind racing. Who are you, really?" she asked, her voice shaking with a mix of fear and awe. Aaron turned to her, calm as ever. "You wanted peace," he said quietly. "But peace doesn't come without people who know war." He did not elaborate, and she did not press. Instead, he helped her back to her throne and began organizing the palace defenses, checking doors, activating hidden security protocols, and scanning the area with equipment that Valera had never seen before. Her advisors whispered furiously. "He's just a human," one said. "He cannot be a threat." Another added, "Why would the Queen marry such a creature?" But Valera no longer cared about their words. She had seen something that none of them understood. A human moving with unmatched skill, reacting instinctively, surviving impossible odds. After the chaos settled, Valera took a moment to study him. Aaron did not boast, did not revel in the danger he had just prevented. He simply stood there, calm, waiting, observing. There was an aura of quiet power around him, something that even the most advanced alien technology could not detect. "What is it about humans?" she asked herself. She had always believed her people were the strongest, the smartest, the most advanced. And yet here was a man who had no visible enhancements, no psychic abilities, no alien technology, and he had just outperformed every guard, every assassin, every measure of defense in her palace. Aaron noticed her gaze. "We survive," he said simply. "Not because we are strong like you, but because we adapt. Because we fight smarter and we never give up." Valera felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. She had married him thinking he would be ceremonial, symbolic. She had expected politeness, perhaps charm, certainly loyalty. But she had not expected a warrior hidden behind ordinary human flesh. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The palace security was restored, the guests were evacuated or reassured, and the Queen and her human husband were left alone in the private chambers. Aaron sat calmly by the window, looking out at the violet forests below. Valera approached him, her mind still struggling to comprehend what she had just witnessed. "You could have left me to die," she said quietly. Aaron shook his head. "I didn't marry a crown," he said. "I married a person, and I don't leave people I care about to die." For the first time, Valera saw not just a human, she saw someone she could trust with her life, and perhaps, she realized, someone who could teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humans. As the twin moons of Zerathia rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the palace, Valera understood something profound. This man she had married was not ordinary. He was exceptional in ways she had never imagined. The night after the coronation, the palace of GalacticPrime was quiet. Outside, the violet forests rustled under the twin moons, casting long, shifting shadows. Inside, Queen Valera's chambers were illuminated by soft golden lamps. The attack during the ceremony had left the palace shaken, but the immediate danger seemed gone. Yet Aaron Vale did not rest. He moved silently through the corridors, checking doors, security panels, and the hidden energy locks built into the palace walls. His human senses, honed through years of specialized training, noticed details that alien sensors could not detect. "Sir," one of the palace guards said nervously, "the attackers were neutralized. There is nothing left. You should rest." Aaron shook his head. "You do not understand," he replied quietly. "What we saw today was only a scouting team. The real threat is coming." The guard frowned. "A scouting team? Then what are we waiting for?" Aaron turned and placed a hand on the guard's shoulder. "Most people wait because they hope things will work out. I act because things will not work out unless someone acts first." Valera watched from the doorway. She had followed him at a distance, curious and wary. Even now, the calm, ordinary human moved with precision and purpose. There was no panic, no hesitation, only control. "You are different," she said softly. Aaron glanced at her, his eyes calm but sharp. "Humans have to be," he said simply. "We cannot afford to be ordinary. Survival is not optional for us," Valera could not argue. She had ruled an empire for years, yet she had never seen power like this contained in a human form. The warning arrives just as he finished securing the western wing of the palace. A message arrived in the royal communications chamber. It was not sent through normal channels. Its energy signature was strange, alien, and dangerous. Aaron opened it carefully. The message was simple. "Your crown is a target. Surrender now or lose everything." "The Vorn Dominion!" Valera's eyes widened. "They are already here?" she whispered. Aaron shook his head. "Not yet, but soon. And they are organized. They will strike with force unlike anything we face today." The Vorn Dominion was legendary in the galaxy, a secretive power. They had nearly destroyed entire star systems centuries ago. No alien fleet wanted to engage them directly, and now it seemed they had chosen SciFi-Prime as their first test. "They will expect us to panic," Aaron said, tapping the message. "They will expect your guards to fail again. But they will be wrong." Valera felt a flicker of hope. "And you will stop them?" Aaron smiled faintly. "I will do more than stop them. I will turn their expectations against them." Training the palace guards, the next morning, Aaron began working with the palace guard in a way that confused and impressed everyone. Unlike the standard Zarathian methods, which relied on brute strength and energy shields, Aaron's training was subtle and precise. He taught them to read body movements, anticipate attacks, and use their environment. The guards grumbled at first. "We have defended this palace for decades," one said. "We know what we are doing." Aaron did not argue. He simply demonstrated. With a short stick, he blocked 5 armed guards simultaneously, using their momentum against them. He disarmed another, tossing the weapon across the hall without touching it with his hands. Valera watched, her eyes wide. "How is he doing this without weapons?" she whispered to herself. "It's human instinct," one of the senior advisors muttered nervously. "They call it cleverness, but it's frightening. Look at the precision." Aaron's training went beyond combat. He studied the palace's structural weaknesses, created contingency escape routes, and integrated alien technology with Terran tactics. He did not seek praise. He simply worked, focused entirely on survival. By the 3rd day, the palace guards were no longer merely ceremonial. They moved with precision, confidence, and coordination. And even Valera began to notice something else. A strange sense of unity forming under his leadership. A combination of fear, respect, and hope. The outer threat emerges. Aaron's predictions proved true sooner than anyone expected. Scouts of the Vorn Dominion appeared on Zarathia's outer orbital perimeter. Their ships were unlike anything in the known galaxy. Jagged black hulls, irregular shapes, and weapons that pulsed with dark energy. The palace sensors barely detected them before the Vorn fleet launched a probing attack. A small wave of vessels approached the planet's atmosphere, testing defenses and firing energy pulses designed to disable the planetary shields. The Zarathian Council panicked. "Our fleets cannot hold them," one shouted. "They are unstoppable." Aaron stepped forward calmly. "You do not understand. Their strength is not infinite. Their tactics are predictable. And your defenses are not useless. They are tools. Tools that I will show you how to use." Valera could not hide her skepticism. "This is a fleet capable of planetary annihilation, and you think we can outsmart them?" Aaron's eyes were steady. "Yes, because humans are underestimated. Every species that underestimates humans eventually loses." The first counterattack, Aaron moved to the control chamber, a massive room filled with holographic displays of ships, orbital weapons, and energy nodes. He studied the Vorn fleet's formations, their attack vectors, and the way their energy pulses traveled. Then he did something unexpected. "Bring down the planetary shields," he ordered. The council froze. "Sir, we cannot." "The shields protect the planet. Trust me," he said. "If we keep the shields up, they will attack in ways we cannot respond to. If we bring them down for just a short moment, we can bait them." Valera hesitated. Her instincts screamed caution, yet she had already seen his instincts in action. She nodded slowly. "Do it." As the shields fell, the Vorn scouts advanced. They fired a wave of energy pulses meant to disable the planet, but Aaron had anticipated it. The pulses passed through a network of redirected energy channels, bouncing back to strike the Vorn vessels. Several ships were destroyed before the enemy even realized the plan. The council gasped. "Impossible," one exclaimed. "How did he do that?" Aaron did not answer. He turned to Valera. They expected panic. They expected fear. They expected failure. Instead, they found strategy. And this is only the beginning. Valera's growing respect that evening, after the first wave of attacks was repelled, Valera approached Aaron in the private chambers again. The violet moonlight spilled across the room, casting a serene glow. "You are not like anyone I have ever known," she said. Aaron shrugged. "I am a human," he replied simply. "We adapt. We survive. We fight when necessary. That is all." Valera studied him, her thoughts racing. She had expected a diplomat, a ceremonial figurehead, someone she could control or at least understand. Instead, she had found a man who was calm in the face of death, who could see patterns and strategies faster than her best generals, and who treated life, both human and alien, with a strange, unwavering precision. "You are more than a human," she said softly. "You are extraordinary." Aaron smiled faintly. "Extraordinary? No, humans are just underestimated. That is all." Valira realized that underestimated humans were perhaps the galaxy's most dangerous force. The calm before the storm. For the next few days, the palace prepared. Aaron trained the guards, improved weapon placements, and built contingency plans for every possible attack. The council remained wary but began to see the effectiveness of his methods. The Vorn fleet, meanwhile, gathered strength. Their next attack would not be a small probe, but a full strike designed to crush SciFi-Prime completely. Every alien species in the galaxy would have assumed that the Queen and her human consort were doomed, but Aaron did not flinch. He studied the enemy movements, calculated odds, and prepared a plan that combined human ingenuity with alien technology in a way that no one had ever attempted. Valira watched him, her heart filled with both admiration and a quiet thrill. She knew that when the Vorn fleet arrived, her human husband would not just defend the palace, he would change the rules of engagement entirely. The morning sun rose over SciFi-Prime, casting its violet glow across the palace spires. The royal court moved with a tense energy. Every Zarathian noble knew what was coming. The scouts of the Vorn Dominion had returned reports that a full fleet would arrive within days. Panic rippled through the council, yet in the command chamber, Aaron Vale was calm. He stood in front of the holomap, hands clasped behind his back, studying the incoming fleet's projected trajectory. The humans' unpredictability had always been underestimated, and Aaron planned to use that to his advantage. Valira entered the chamber silently, observing him. "Do you really think we can stop them?" she asked. Aaron didn't look at her. "We won't just stop them," he said quietly. "We will make them regret underestimating humans." She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dangerous." Aaron finally looked at her, his gaze steady. "Everything worth doing is planning the impossible." Over the next several hours, Aaron worked with both the palace engineers and the guards. He studied every orbital defense system, every energy relay, every satellite array. The Zarathian fleet was impressive but rigid. Their tactics were elegant, precise, and predictable. Aaron wanted unpredictability. He combined human thinking with alien technology in ways the Council had never seen. Mining satellites were converted into mobile kinetic weapons. Energy shield nodes were repositioned to act as traps, and decoy fleets were launched to confuse the enemy sensors. The Council murmured among themselves. "Why would a human order our satellites into the atmosphere?" One muttered. Aaron heard it. "Because humans do not fight like you," he said. "We adapt. We use every resource. We make the enemy react to us, not the other way around." Valira watched as he drew complex patterns on the holomap, showing where the enemy would move, how they would react, and what Zarathia's forces would do in response. It looked chaotic to the untrained eye, but Aaron's mind had a strange clarity. Every step had a purpose. Every risk was calculated. Training the fleet. While Aaron worked with the palace engineers, he also addressed the fleet captains. Many were skeptical of a human commanding alien ships. "You do not understand our ships," one captain protested. "We cannot fly them your way." Aaron smiled faintly. "You do not fly ships. You think you are your ships. I will show you how to use them. I do not need your approval. I only need your cooperation." Over the next hours, he trained them in what he called adaptive tactics. Instead of following pre-programmed flight paths, the fleet would move in patterns designed to confuse, mislead, and trap the Vorn Dominion. He demonstrated by using miniature drones to mimic enemy behavior, then showed how the fleet could respond in real time. By the end of the day, the fleet captains were exhausted, but something had changed. The fear that had dominated the command chamber was replaced by a grudging respect. Aaron's ideas were unconventional, even risky, but they worked. And for the first time, the captains began to trust a human's instincts. Valira noticed the shift in morale. Humans were small, fragile, and underestimated, but they could inspire confidence in others, even aliens who considered themselves superior. The Vorn fleet arrives. 3 days later, the Vorn fleet emerged from hyperspace. Hundreds of ships of irregular, jagged shapes pulsating with dark energy appeared in orbit around SciFi-Prime, Their leader, a massive flagship known as the Dreadmaw, moved forward, preparing to destroy the planet in a single strike. The council panicked. "They will destroy us," one cried. Aaron stepped to the center of the command chamber.
"No," he said.
"They will not. Watch carefully." The first wave of Vorn ships fired energy pulses at the planetary shields, expecting the usual defense pattern. But Aaron had prepared differently. He had bled the energy shields intentionally in controlled areas, creating channels that would guide the enemy fire into decoy satellites. Several Vorn ships were destroyed immediately. The council gasped. "Impossible. They are too advanced." Aaron did not respond. He was already moving on the next step, repositioning orbital weapons and signaling hidden missile batteries. The Vorn fleet advanced, confident, arrogant, believing the humans and Zarathians would crumble. Instead, the enemy found themselves trapped. Mining satellites moved into precise positions acted as kinetic battering weapons. Large asteroids were slingshotted using controlled gravity fields, smashing into enemy ships. Energy channels redirected pulses back toward the Vorn vessels. Every attack they made was predicted, every move countered. Valera watched from the observation deck, her heart pounding. Her common human husband was orchestrating a defense that no Zarathian strategist could imagine. The fleet's efficiency, the precision of every move, the complete unpredictability, it was something that only a human mind could pull off. The turning point. The Vorn flagship. The Dreadmaw attempted to flee the traps. It unleashed a wave of dark energy to destroy anything in orbit. But Aaron had anticipated this too. Using a combination of redirected energy channels and decoy satellites, the attack backfired, damaging the Dreadmaw itself. The enemy fleet faltered. Ships collided with each other as they tried to maneuver out of the trap. Panic rippled through their ranks, something alien commanders had never expected from humans. Foresight, adaptation, and relentless unpredictability. Aaron's voice came over the communication network. "Calm and commanding. You underestimated us. That was your first mistake. You will make no more." Valera could hardly believe her ears. Her human husband was speaking to the enemy fleet as if he were their master, and they could do nothing but listen and tremble. The Queen's realization after the battle's first day, the Vorn fleet retreated slightly, regrouping. The damage had been severe, their confidence shaken. Valera approached Aaron in the command chamber again, her expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You," she began, "you are not just strong. You are something else entirely." Aaron turned to her, calm and unshaken. "I am human," he said. "We survive, we adapt, we fight in ways no one expects. That is all." Valera shook her head slowly. "No, it is more than that. You do not just fight. You inspire. You think differently. You change the rules." Aaron smiled faintly. "That is what humans have always done. The galaxy just forgot to notice." For the first time, the Queen realized that she had underestimated not only the humans, but also the strength of their will. Their minds, their courage, and their creativity were far more powerful than she had imagined. Preparation for the final battle. Over the next 2 days, Aaron worked tirelessly. He fine-tuned fleet movements, reinforced planetary defenses, and instructed the Palace Guard in advanced combat tactics. He did not rest. Humans were relentless when necessary. Valera observed him constantly, noting his calm demeanor, his strategic brilliance, and the quiet confidence that radiated from him. She understood something profound. The strength of humans was not just in their bodies, but in their minds and spirit. Meanwhile, the Vorn fleet gathered, preparing for a full-scale assault. They believed the humans and Zarathians would crumble under pressure, as every other species had before. They did not know that Aaron Vale had already rewritten the battle before it began. The calm. Before the storm as night fell on Zarathia-Prime, the palace was eerily silent. Aaron stood on the balcony, watching the stars and the dark shapes of the enemy fleet on the horizon. The violet light of the moons reflected off his calm, determined face. Valera joined him. "Tomorrow," she said softly. "Tomorrow they will strike with everything they have. Can we survive?" Aaron looked at her, unwavering. "Not only will we survive," he said quietly, "we will show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Valera's heart swelled with respect and something more, admiration, trust, and perhaps a spark of love. The man she had married, who everyone thought ordinary, was extraordinary, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to the coming battle. The humans of Earth had begun their long-awaited return to the galaxy, not as weaklings but as unstoppable force. The horizon of SCIFI-HFY shimmered under the violet light of its twin moons. The calm of night belied the storm approaching from space. The Vorn Dominion fleet, hundreds of jagged black ships pulsing with dark energy, moved like predators toward the planet. Their flagship, the massive Dreadmaw, led the formation, a monstrous presence visible even from the palace balcony. Inside the royal palace, the command chamber buzzed with controlled chaos. Valera stood at the center, flanked by advisors and generals, all nervously reviewing the incoming fleet's movements on holographic displays. But the person who radiated calm amidst the tension was Aaron Vale. "Remember," Aaron said, voice steady, "they expect fear. They expect panic. They do not expect strategy they cannot predict." The council exchanged skeptical glances. "These are no ordinary attackers," one of the generals muttered. "They are unstoppable. Our shields alone cannot hold them." Aaron turned slowly. "Then we do not rely on shields alone. We use everything, technology, terrain, unpredictability. We fight in ways they cannot anticipate." Valera, watching him, realized once again that the human she had married was not ordinary. He was not just a warrior. He was a force of nature, calm, adaptive, and relentless. The battle begins. The first wave of Vorn ships entered the upper atmosphere. They unleashed waves of dark energy, designed to shred planetary defenses and fry electronic systems. The Zarathian fleet responded, firing volleys of energy cannons and activating shield grids. But Aaron had anticipated every step. "Divert the energy pulses," he ordered, "through the satellite arrays and redirect them back at the incoming ships." The planetary shields, previously thought untouchable, became instruments of cunning. Energy pulses the Vorn fleet intended to destroy SCIFI-HFY were reflected and amplified, smashing several enemy vessels instantly. Alarmed, the Vorn commanders adjusted their formation, but it was too late. Aaron had anticipated their moves, placing decoy fleets to mimic retreat and bait the attackers into traps. Asteroids, pulled from the planet's belt using gravity projectors, were sent hurtling toward the enemy, each collision perfectly timed. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and panic spread through the Vorn ranks. Valera's eyes widened. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered. Aaron did not answer. He was already moving on to the next phase, coordinating orbital weapons, fleet maneuvers, and palace defenses like a chess master with centuries of experience. Human ingenuity in action. The Vorn flagship, the Dreadmaw, attempted to break through the traps, firing dark energy waves intended to obliterate the planetary defenses. Aaron had already predicted this. "Activate the kinetic slingshot," he commanded. Massive asteroids already positioned near the orbital grid were hurled toward the flagship at impossible speeds. Using precise calculations, Aaron ensured that they struck at weak points, crippling the vessel without destroying it completely, enough to sow chaos and confusion. Simultaneously, energy channels redirected the flagship's own attacks back toward it, damaging shields and weapon arrays. The remaining Vorn fleet struggled to regroup, but every path Aaron anticipated had a counter ready. The humans and Zarathians were no longer just defending, they were controlling the battlefield. One admiral whispered in disbelief, "No species could do this. Only humans." Aaron's calm presence inspired every crew member. They followed orders with precision, acting faster than instinct. They moved as a single, unstoppable unit, blending human ingenuity with Zarathian technology. The turning point, the Vorn fleet, realizing that conventional attacks were failing, attempted to retreat. The Dreadmaw activated its hyperboost engines, trying to escape the planetary traps, but Aaron anticipated even this. "Intercept," he ordered. "Deploy the energy nets and deploy the decoy drones to block escape vectors." In moments, the flagship was surrounded. Energy nets shimmered like a web of light, closing in on the ship. The drones, small and fast, disrupted navigation systems and laser targeting. Panic spread among the Vorn commanders. Their flagship, thought invincible, was trapped. Aaron's voice came over the network again, calm, commanding, almost unnervingly serene. "You underestimated humans. You thought we were weak, that we could be ignored. You were wrong. The flagship faltered, caught in the trap. The Vorn fleet, leaderless and demoralized, began to scatter. Energy pulses fired back from the planet struck in calculated sequences, destroying ships that attempted to flee. By the end of the engagement, the Vorn Dominion had suffered catastrophic losses. Valira's realization. From the observation balcony, Valira watched the chaos in orbit with a mixture of fear and awe. Her human husband, whom she had married expecting ceremonial obedience, had orchestrated a defense that no alien fleet could have imagined. She turned to him. You have changed the battle completely." Aaron shrugged. "I adapted. That is all. Humans survive by seeing what others cannot, thinking what others do not, and acting when others hesitate." Valira shook her head slowly. "No, it is more than that. You are extraordinary, not because you are human, but because you are you." Aaron smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But you must understand, humans are underestimated for a reason. We make others believe they are strong, only to reveal our true strength when necessary." Her admiration for him deepened. She realized that she had married a being who was not only capable of protecting her, but of teaching the galaxy a lesson in humility. Aftermath of the battle. The Vorn fleet retreated from the planet's orbit. Battered, demoralized, and broken, messages of surrender and retreat were sent to their remaining commanders. Reports spread across the galaxy. Zarathia-Prime had survived the impossible attack. The aliens had expected the planet to fall, yet it stood strong. Inside the palace, the council celebrated cautiously. Valira approached Aaron, her expression both relieved and awed. "You have done the impossible," she said. "You saved my people, my planet, the Empire." Aaron shook his head. "I did what humans have always done. We adapt, we survive, and when necessary, we fight." She studied him, realizing the truth in his words. The galaxy had never understood the human, their ingenuity, their resilience, their adaptability. Her husband was proof of that. The Queen's reflection. That night, as the moons cast silver light over the palace, Valira stood on the balcony alone. The stars above seemed brighter, and the horizon carried the remnants of the destroyed Vorn ships. She thought about the humans she had dismissed, the ones she had married, and the lessons learned over the past days. Aaron approached quietly, standing beside her. "The battle is won," he said softly. "Yes," she replied. "But I realize now, it is more than that. You are not ordinary, Aaron. You are something the galaxy cannot ignore." Aaron looked at her, calm and steady. "I am human," he said simply. "And humans always find a way," Valira smiled. Understanding something profound. She had married a being who was underestimated by every species, but who had proven, through strategy, courage, and intellect, that humans were forces of nature. She realized that her husband's strength was not just physical or technological. It was human ingenuity, determination, and the will to survive. And that was something no alien army could ever defeat. The palace of Zarathia-Prime stood tall and unbroken. The Vorn Dominion had retreated, humbled and defeated, and the Queen finally understood that the man she had married was not only extraordinary, he was a human, and humans were unstoppable when underestimated. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. The aftermath of the battle left Zarathia-Prime scarred but unbroken. The twin moons reflected off shattered debris floating in orbit, remnants of the Vorn Dominion fleet. Even in defeat, the enemy had left an impression. Alien historians would speak of this day for centuries. Inside the royal palace, the atmosphere was calm, yet charged with quiet energy. The council met an emergency session to assess the damage, repair plans, and strategic implications. Yet the true focus of attention was not the alien bureaucrats, generals, or advisors. It was Aaron Vale, the human who had orchestrated the impossible. Queen Valira watched him from her throne room window, silhouetted against the violet horizon. The man she had married, whom everyone called ordinary, had reshaped the fate of her empire in mere days. He did not boast, did not demand recognition, yet the results were undeniable. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and now it would never do so again. The aftermath of victory. Aaron walked through the palace courtyard, observing the cleanup crews and repair teams. His eyes were calm, but every movement, every glance showed purpose. Even as he had fought, planned, and coordinated, he had never lost focus on the people he was protecting. Valera approached him. "The Council wants to name you commander of the Imperial fleet," she said softly. "They believe your leadership saved SciFi-Prime." Aaron shook his head gently. "I am not here for titles," he said. "I am here because humans survive, and when we fight to protect others." "That is enough." Valera smiled faintly, realizing that his humility was part of his strength. He did not seek glory. He sought efficiency, precision, and results. That combination had won the battle. The Council, however, was insistent. Records of the battle were being documented, and every fleet captain, every palace guard, and every general had agreed. Humans could not be ignored. Aaron's name would be remembered even if he wished it were otherwise. The political implications. The galaxy reacted swiftly. Communications from neighboring star systems flooded in, each expressing astonishment, curiosity, and concern. How had a human, a species long underestimated, turned a hopeless situation into a decisive victory? Valera herself called for a private audience with the Council. "We need to understand what humans can do," she said. "This is not just a battle won. This is a shift in galactic power." Aaron, present during the discussion, listened quietly. He did not interrupt, did not correct, and did not boast. When asked about human capabilities, he smiled faintly. "Humans are adaptable," he said simply. "We survive because we learn, we improvise, and we never give up. That is all. It is up to others to understand or underestimate us. But it is their mistake if they do." The Council exchanged uneasy glances. Humans, so long considered weak, had proven far more dangerous than they imagined. A ripple of unease passed through the room. Some called it fear, others called it respect, but no one could ignore it. The Queen's personal realization that evening. Valera walked with Aaron through the palace gardens. The violet flowers glowed under the twin moons, casting delicate shadows across the stone paths. She paused, looking at him, finally allowing herself to see him fully, not just as a consort, but as the extraordinary man he was. "You were not ordinary," she said quietly. "Not during the battle, not before, not ever. I married what I thought was a simple man, but you are, beyond anything I imagined." Aaron looked at her, calm and steady. "I am human," he replied, "and humans survive. We do not need to be extraordinary. We simply do what is necessary." Valera shook her head, smiling softly. "No, you are extraordinary because you see the impossible and then make it real. You do not seek recognition, but your actions speak louder than any title or crown." Aaron's gaze softened. "I do what I do to protect you, your people, your planet. That is enough purpose for me." For the first time, Valera felt a deep respect mixed with admiration. She realized that humans were not just physically resilient. They were mentally and spiritually strong, able to reshape the galaxy simply by refusing to be underestimated. A new era for SciFi-Prime. In the weeks following the battle, the Council moved to formalize alliances and rebuild the damaged defenses. Valera oversaw these efforts, but Aaron's influence remained central. He advised on fleet movements, planetary defenses, and diplomatic strategies. Even without seeking authority, he had become the keystone of the Empire's security. Other alien leaders who had once sneered at the baseline humans now approached cautiously. Ambassadors and generals alike came to SciFi-Prime to observe Aaron's strategies, to learn from him, and, in some cases, to seek his guidance. Humans were no longer underestimated. Valera observed all of this, quietly proud. She had not only married a brilliant mind, but had aligned herself with a species capable of reshaping the galactic order. And yet she saw that Aaron's true strength was not in control or conquest. It was in human resilience, ingenuity, and determination. The human spirit one evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the violet forests, Valera asked, "Why did your people survive when others could not?" Aaron thought for a moment. "Humans have always been underestimated," he said. "It forced us to adapt, to think faster, to act smarter. Every challenge we faced, famine, war, disease, extinction, taught us to survive. It is not power or size that makes humans strong. It is willpower, creativity, and the refusal to be defeated." Valera listened, realizing the truth in his words. Across the galaxy, countless species relied on strength, technology, or psychic ability. Humans relied on something deeper: intelligence, adaptability, and unyielding courage. That was the true force that had saved SciFi-Prime. She turned to him, admiration shining in her eyes. You have proven that humans are more than we imagined, and you have shown me your true strength." Aaron's expression remained calm, humble. "I did what was necessary," he said softly. "Necessary?" Valera asked. "No, extraordinary. You are extraordinary." A lasting legacy, the victory over the Vorn Dominion became a defining moment in galactic history. Stories spread across the stars of a human who had saved an alien empire, who had used ingenuity, strategy, and courage to defeat an enemy far superior in numbers and technology. The phrase "never underestimate humans" became common in alien military academies. Valera, now certain of the power she had married, took Aaron's hand. "You have changed everything," she said. "Not just this empire, but the galaxy itself." Aaron smiled faintly. "I did not change the galaxy. Humans always survive. The galaxy just needed to see it for itself." The Queen laughed softly, "And now it has." They stood together, overlooking SciFi-Prime. The moons reflected off the forests and rivers, the palace spires catching the light of victory. For the first time, Valera understood the full truth. She had married a man whose strength was not measured in weapons or status, but in heart, mind, and courage. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. Now they had no choice but to acknowledge them.